Eating Big Macs every day probably isn't the best thing for you, but if you want to eat this Big Mac bowl every day, I wouldn't stop you. It has less calories and more protein compared to its evil twin brother. Plus, it tastes good, it's easy to make, and you can use it for meal prep. That's what I call a win-win-win. Start off by preheating your oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit or 215 degrees Celsius. I like these yellow mini potatoes because they cook fast and you don't need to peel them. A 1.5 pound bag, 680 grams, will be enough to make you 4 Big Mac bowls. After rinsing, I'm going to quarter them, creating a perfect bite-sized potato for this recipe. Then spread the potatoes over a large baking sheet and coat them with olive oil and salt. Keep in mind that I used 3 pounds of potatoes here, more than you need for this recipe because I wanted some leftovers. To ensure the potatoes are fully coated with olive oil and salt, I'm going to then give them a quick mix with my hands before placing them in the oven for 15 minutes. After this amount of time has passed, remove the potatoes from the oven and give them one more mix with a spoon. Don't use your hands this time as they will be too hot.
Very hot potato.
Place them back in the oven for 15 minutes for a total cooking time of 30 minutes. Once finished, the potatoes will be golden, crispy, and you might even want to sample a few. Next, we can move on to cooking the beef. I'm using 1 pound or 450 grams of a 92.7 ground beef. Set your stovetop to medium heat and add a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic and a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. I like to break the beef apart with a spatula to mix the spices evenly and help it cook faster. Once again, this amount of ground beef will be enough for 4 Big Mac bowls. When the beef is done cooking, we can move on to making the sauce, which really gives this recipe that Big Mac flavor. Combine 57 grams of plain Greek yogurt, 1 tablespoon of ketchup, 1 tablespoon of light mayonnaise, 2 teaspoons of yellow mustard, and 2 teaspoons of pickle juice in a bowl and mix everything together. This is enough sauce for 1 serving, so if you're making more than 1 bowl, multiply the ingredients accordingly. All that's left to do now is dice up the onion and assemble our bowl. Now, I'm not really a fan of raw onions, so I did cook mine until they were slightly translucent. This step is totally optional. McDonald's doesn't go through this trouble, and you don't need to either, but it's worth it in my opinion. So now we have our potatoes, beef, shredded lettuce, Big Mac sauce, American cheese, pickles, and onions, which is almost identical to a classic Big Mac burger, apart from swapping out the bun with potatoes because, well, it just made sense. This brings our total macros to 450 calories, 47 grams of carbs, 15 grams of fat, and 36 grams of protein. Compare this to a standard Big Mac, which has 590 calories, 46 grams of carbs, 34 grams of fat, and 25 grams of protein. This homemade burger bowl has about 150 calories less than a standard Big Mac, and there's none of those crazy oils or whatever else they're putting in there. Plus, we're using potatoes instead of bread, which will be more satiating, meaning that it will keep you more full for a longer period of time. If you have a very basic level of nutrition, this recipe is just one example of how you can eat high protein meals that will help you lose weight and still taste good. That's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed this recipe, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel for more macro-friendly recipes. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.